going on, faded culture? I'm Adrian and Barron, and we're back with another tutorial. Today we're going to be breaking down the steps on how to do a bald mid fade with a natural part, and then we're going to trim the top a little bit with shears. Be sure to stick around to the end because I am going to show y'all a little bit of blow drying tips to get a nice pompadour look. With that said, don't forget to subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, and let's jump right into this tutorial. Alright guys, thank y'all so much for tuning in to another tutorial. As usual, all the steps to this haircut and all the tools that we use will be linked in the description down below, so feel free to check it out. And big thank y'all to everybody who's been shopping from our website, fadedculture.co. We're going to start off by slightly damping the hair and trying to comb it into its neutral position. Make sure that you are combing according to the cowlick area. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my first section and start trimming away at that, and then grabbing some of the previous cut section alongside with a new one. This is basically going to be used as my guide. And just follow along that same guide all the way to the side, and creating these small horizontal sections as I work my way back, following that same procedure of always grabbing some of the previous cut hair alongside with the new section. And I did forget to mention, thank y'all for those who tuned in to yesterday's live here on YouTube. There was 10 winners. I appreciate each and every one of y'all. We will be sending out the gifts this week. Keep in mind guys that the tighter your horizontal sections are, the less work you will have to do when you come back and cross check it. And notice how I'm using my opposite hand to help push that comb to help with the section. Now I'm going to begin cross-checking, now coming in vertical sections. And real quick guys, this is obviously a haircut channel. We do teach tutorials, but I also want to start introducing some books that I've been reading and a few tips just to show the mindset behind all of this and kind of help you on y'all's career along the way. So if y'all seen some of my previous videos, I've mentioned before the book called Mastery by Robert Greene, which is amazing. If y'all haven't checked that out, I will leave it down in the description. But another one that I highly recommend guys is The War of Art. I will leave that one linked in the description below guys. Again, we are here to teach the technical skill of cutting hair, but I think more important is the mindset behind all this. And one thing I do want y'all to notice is I did leave that fringe area slightly longer. As you can see, as I'm picking up the hair, it's slightly shorter as we work our way to the back, and that's just so we can have a lot more to play with when we want to add volume to that front part. Now to start sectioning for that natural part that he wanted, and using the comb to hold tension and then put your clip in. That way you don't have loose hairs falling out. And on the opposite side, I'm just going to go ahead and move his bangs out of the way so we don't cut into them. Now starting with no guard lever completely closed at that temple peak area, right at that corner, we're going to begin setting in our first guideline, and I'm going to slightly drop it as we approach the back of the ear. Make sure that you are nice and easy with these guidelines guys. It will make your life a lot easier when we have to come back and start removing them. Make sure that you do end up at that same temple peak area on the opposite side. You could always view him from the front to make sure that they align. Now for the next guideline, we're going to open our lever completely and take that up about an inch or so. Just make sure that it does run parallel to the one underneath. That way your fade is consistent throughout. And I am slightly flicking at the top of these guidelines. Now with my number 1 guard lever still completely open, we're going to go ahead and set in our third guideline, repeating that same process, taking it up about 1 inch or so, running parallel to the one underneath it. Take your time with all these guidelines, guys. I always suggest that you keep a comb or a brush on your opposite hand and clean your canvas after every couple strokes. Here you can see my wrist motion. Now with my number 2 guard lever still completely open, we're going to continue the process. And with the number 2 and 3 guard, or anything higher than the number 2, I do exaggerate that flick out motion. This is the front view of it, just so you can get an idea. Now with my number 3 guard, repeating that same process. And this is going to be the last guard that I will be using on this haircut. And if you were easy enough with that number 2, it should have blended in right into that number 3. Now to remove what's left, I'm going to use the clipper over comb technique. This is the position of my comb. I wanted y'all to see it from a front view. And I like to personally use a lever fully open when I'm doing clipper over comb. If you're very new to clipper over comb, I highly suggest you even throw on like a number 1 guard. It's basically going to be used as a safety net so you don't cut off too much. Now clipper over comb does tend to leave a little bit of bulk right at that crown area. So now I'm going to come back with thinning shears over comb and start debulking that crown. And now that we're all done setting up the canvas, I'm gonna freehand any frizz. As you can see, I do put my pinky against the head to use as a safety net. And now all that's left is our 3 guidelines. First one that we created with the 0, second that we created with the lever fully open, and third that we created with the number 1 guard fully open. We're gonna start with that one and work our way down. With my number 1.5 guard, I'm gonna close the lever just slightly, putting it into a 3/4 position. It's basically somewhere in between halfway and fully open. Using mainly the corners of the clipper, I'm gonna attack that top guideline. And take note, guys, that my lever positions are just the rule of thumb. So if you do feel that you need to open or slightly close your lever, feel free to do so. As you can see, it is very important. I'm always looking off the mirror. So for some reason, what you can't see right in front of you, sometimes you can spot in the mirror. Now with my half guard, lever still in that 3/4 position, we're gonna attack that second guideline coming down. Take note that this step does leave a faint line right above it, but do not take this step any higher, as we will come back right now with the 1 guard and remove that line. So now, like I mentioned, with my number 1 guard, lever still in that 3/4 position, I'm going to remove that faint line that the half guard created. Again, guys, all these steps are in the description box, so in case you want to screenshot them and follow along that way as well. Now for the last line, we're going to go ahead and use a 3-step process, starting with the lever close, then halfway, then fully open. Working at one section at a time. I'm going to start with this left side and just do that 3-step process, starting with the lever close. Now I'm going to open it halfway, taking each of those notches up just slightly. And finally, open all the way. Let's shine some light on today's video sponsor. They go by the name of Skillshare. And to be honest, if I'm not reading books, I'm probably on Skillshare trying to hone in on a certain skill. Off the back, y'all need to check out this guy Ali's course, man. This guy has millions of subs on YouTube, a side business, and a full-time career. He has a whole class on productivity. I like how he breaks down productivity concepts like Pareto's Law. Y'all definitely need to check this one out. Another one that I'd recommend is the fundamentals of DSLRs. If you're trying to up your Instagram game, guys, learning a DSLR may seem complex, but with courses like this, guys, they simplify it on a whole nother level. The first 1,000 people to click the link below will get a free month's trial, guys. Check it out. Now back to this tutorial. And just repeat that same 3-step process, but I do highly recommend that you take your time with especially this last step. I personally take anywhere from 45 to 60 minutes on my haircuts, sometimes even 5 to 10 minutes longer, guys. I mean, I think it's very important that you just try to perfect your technique and try to get that down, as the speed does come with time. I remember in the beginning of my barbering journey, I used to take even 2 hours sometimes on certain people, just frustrated trying to get this technique down. It wasn't this technique in particular. I used to just fade from the bottom all the way up to the top, but I found that by setting in these guidelines, it helped me stay organized and do my fade a little bit better. That same 3-step process, guys. Now using my trimmer in a forward position to get as closest to the scalp as I possibly can, turning my trimmer around and blending that faint line right in. And you're going to see as I remove the bottom hair why it was important for me to use the trimmer in a forward position. It's going to help distinguish that bottom hair into the fade, leaving a faint line. And now we know exactly how high up to take the electric shaver. Just repeat that process all around. As you can see, the faint line is a little more visible towards that back area. Now just cleaning my canvas. I like to work with the clean canvas as much as possible. Now with my half guard using lever play, I'm gonna do any touch-up work. And with touch-up work, guys, it is gonna vary from client to client, so don't get frustrated. Just take a step back, use your mirrors, and try to pick at any dark spots that you might see. Now using my electric shaver, and a quick tip is do turn your electric shaver around and use it as if it was a clipper, using mainly the corners of it as you approach that faint line, just to ensure that you don't create another line on top of that or push the fade any higher. Here, removing his mustache. I'm always saying, guys, always ask your client whatever he wants to do with his facial hair. Ask him if he wants to get his eyebrows cleaned and trimmed, and remove any excess ear or nose hair that they might have. And I personally always use the electric shaver in the neck area, but I want to know what most of y'all use. Do y'all like to use a straight razor? I know, for instance, my brother, he never uses electric shaver in the neck area. He prefers to use a straight razor. But for whatever reason, I like using the electric shaver. Here I'm just running my finger so I can see in the direction that the grain is going to make sure that I am cutting against it. Since his hair is long enough, I was able to just clip it out of the way. Always starting in the center and working your way to the sides. And before I approach the opposite side, I like to start from the center again and just basically recalibrate so I know I'm going as straight as possible. Make sure that your client's chin is neutral. Here I'm putting a little bit of water to help with the shave gel. It just prolongs the life of the shave gel. Starting by shaving with the grain, using my opposite hand to help stretch out the skin to ensure a smoother shave. No lie guys, I'm probably dusting off my client like 10 times, 20 times throughout the haircut. I don't just wait to the end. I like to work with the cleanest area as possible. Here I'm just gonna damp the hair a little bit, get it ready to blow dry using high speed and high heat. What I like to do before I actually set in the style, I like to dry the hair about 80%. That way I know it's laying in the most neutral position as possible. And then I come back in and start brushing it in. And the way to get as much volume towards the front as possible guys is by rounding your brush in this direction and holding the blow dryer in front of it for a second or two. And once you're done blow drying it guys, you're going to want to hit your cool shot, turn off all the heat, and just rework that blow dryer throughout the hair. This is just going to close the cuticle to make sure that the hair lies in the position that you blow dried it in. Here emulsifying some matte pomade. Make sure you emulsify it where it almost disappears in your hand so you don't leave clumps of product in his hair. I'm just going to go ahead and tie it all in with a little bit of hairspray. Now adding some semi-permanent hair dye. The link is in the description to all these tools again guys. Here's the before in case y'all forgot. And here's the after guys, a bald mid fade with a slight drop and a natural part. I hope y'all enjoyed this tutorial guys. I hope y'all took something new away from it. As always, let us know down in the comments below any haircut that y'all would like for us to do next. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Till next time guys, peace.